ago. 2 days ago, and within the past hour it was announced that the film will have domestic distribution in the US with A24. We're very excited for the team. I'm very excited to have this filmmaker back at the festival. His last film played in a section called Next, and it won the audience award there called This Is Martin Bonner. And with his films, they're something that I always expect is a warmth and a real humanity to the stories that he tells. And he always has a total control and understanding of who his characters are and what they're going through. He's a very talented filmmaker, and please welcome up writer-director Chad Hartigan.
Very nice to meet you, Charlie. Thank you. Thank you guys all so much for coming out and waiting in the line, and you guys in the front, that's like the worst seats, but thanks so much. It really means a lot. And like Charlie said, I was at Sundance once before with my last film, and was so impressed by the audiences. And my favorite screening actually was the one at the Redstone, because I sat through all of them. So I'm really excited for you all to see it. I hope you like it. We're going to be coming back to do a Q&A, myself and some of the crew and a little bit of the cast. And I guess that's about it. So thanks again, and I'll see you afterwards, I hope. Adela Romansky, one of our producers. Sarah Murphy, one of our producers. Sean McElwee was the cinematographer. Gabi Simone, who was one of the producers. Martin Heisler, one of the producers. And Carla Yuri, who plays Inca. Stephanie, you want to come up? And Stephanie Gross, who's our commissioning editor from the SWR in Germany. And unfortunately, Marquise Christmas is on an airplane back to LA, so he couldn't be here, but he says hello to everyone. Thanks so much for sticking around. I hope that means that you have a question or two.
I'll be right there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Where do we get the soundtrack?
All right. Funny you should ask. Boom!
I felt like Oprah there.
Actually, yeah, the music, I just want to make sure everyone knows that music, I mean, aside from the Jay-Z, obviously, and the opening song by Jeru the Jamja, Keegan composed all that original hip-hop in the beginning, all the EDM dance stuff, and the actual score itself is all Keegan DeWitt. And I'm sure that the soundtrack will be available one day. But you can beat that guy up for it, too.
Questions?
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the decision to set the movie in Heidelberg, which kept coming up, against the iconography of the United States, and then mention of Berlin, and these kind of bigger places, bigger world?
So you're asking specifically Heidelberg and not Germany?
I guess both, actually.
I knew I wanted to make a movie, and probably in particular this movie, in Europe. I started writing it in Germany because it was the most recent country I'd been to, and it was fresh in my mind. But I actually had been in a city called Dresden, and it's a weird city, and I thought it would be interesting to put these characters there. But then once I started actually going to Germany more and trying to get the movie made, and I met Martin and Gabi, who are German producers, it started to shift a little bit, and I got more familiar with the area. And then Stephanie got on board, right here, and she's based in the Baden-Württemberg region in the south, and she's like, come down and check out all of our cities. And I did, and I kind of fell in love with Heidelberg that way, and just thought it was, I think there was something interesting to me about setting a character like Morris, just plopping him down in the middle of these environments, and I felt that at the very least there was some power to that image. So, just setting up a camera, putting that kid there, there's something to that, and you can only build from there. So that's what I was trying to do. But actually Heidelberg has a pretty big underground rap scene, which is, it's just all white people though. Yes?
Thank you, that movie was just amazing. Thank all of you for making it possible.
Thanks.
It's fabulous.
Did everybody hear that question?
But so, and I saw, this is Martin Bonner when he was here, and thought that was amazing as well, and even invited Paul Inhorn to come to my festival. And he told me that that for that film, the character was based a lot on your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, knowing that had a lot of autobiographical sort of inspiration, is where are you in this story?
This is also very autobiographical. I always have to start from an autobiographical place, and the God's honest truth is that the seed of this film was when I was 13, went through a big humping my pillow phase, and I really did one day get kind of bored of that, and I was like, I gotta spice this up, and I dressed my pillow up in my clothes and slow danced with it, and then humped it. And that's like a story I've told many times, and it's always gotten a reaction, and I was like, that'd be a great scene in a movie if you can really capture that kind of innocence, that tenderness, that silliness. So that the movie kind of sprung out from there, and it incorporated other pieces of my own life. The real girl that I fell in love with for the first time, who didn't love me back, and she really did squirt me in the pants when I thought I was getting a kiss. It's like, Morris is me, except in all the ways that I tried to challenge myself as a writer, which is to put my experiences in the hands and the body of someone else, completely unlike me, so you can try and find what's universal about the experiences. And I think if you can do that, then it's a good chance that the people watching might also have, something to relate to.
In terms of casting, the two guys are great. How did you match them up? How did you find them?
We got Marquise first, and it was a long search. And we looked through agencies, and we had a casting director, and we weren't doing so well. We weren't finding anybody that kind of popped. And then I had some friends who were in the comedy scene in LA, and they were like, you should check out this Channel 101 show, which is a comedy event that happens once a month that people can just make their own 5-minute shows. And it's called Marquise Versus, and it was on YouTube, so I watched it, and it's just this kid, Marquise, playing spy or like doing these fun little skit things, and they were made by his big brother in the Big Brother mentor program, and he just like put Marquise in them. So I had to like contact him through YouTube and be like, hey man, I promise I'm not a creep, but like, who's that kid? I'm interested in maybe meeting him. But that worked, and the Big Brother helped bring him in for an audition, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't like he was amazing. He'd never acted really before, and he was kind of stiff and nervous, but there was still something about him in that audition that was different from all the agency kids, and he came back in a few more times. And Craig Robinson is famous, so I'm a fan of his work, and we just like sent him the script. We have the same agency, and I think between the agents there was talk about him being interested in different kinds of parts, and so we just
nice. They're actually very nice.
They're very nice together, yeah. I didn't have to do much there. I just had to put the camera on them and let them interact.
There was a question over
Yeah.
so I know it's a little uncomfortable.
Oh man.
I just want to ask you, as a white filmmaker and a white male filmmaker, and I know it's like
I'm white?
difficult. We're confronted with this like crazy thing where obviously, as white people, especially in America, we have infinitely more resources, access to being able to make films. But I know I can speak for myself, and a lot of us are really bored with seeing super white movies, and that's got to change. But how, in terms of making a story that's about a kid and his dad, and they are definitely black characters who are experiencing, being other in a very extreme way. I just wanted you to speak a little bit to that and to like kind of how you solve the problem of you know, not feeling you're speaking for somebody or an experience that maybe you haven't directly experienced in that specific way?
I was definitely nervous, and you know, sometime early in the development process, when I was still thinking about the movie before I was writing it, the idea of making the characters black occurred to me, and it just instantly made a kind of sense. And I don't know how to describe it, except maybe in that I'm only excited about actually sitting down and writing and conceptualizing and visualizing a few years of my life going by on a project if I can really feel like there's something about it that I haven't seen before. And maybe it is because of the lack of opportunities for black filmmakers to tell stories about their own experiences that is why I had felt like I hadn't seen this type of father-son relationship very much in films, or a young male black kid who's really kind of sensitive, a story about his coming of age, where he's not pretending to be tough all the time. So I was excited about those characters because they seemed kind of new and fresh to me. But I was definitely nervous about it. But in the same way that I was nervous in my last film writing about 60-year-old men, or men just getting out of prison, or women, and you think you just have to try and get it as close to truth and honesty as you can, and then you have to rely on the collaborators that do have more of that particular specific life experience to bring something to it and be open to their collaboration and their co-authorship of it. And so that's what I try to do. But you know, you never know.
I thought the other part of the story that was very compelling was the story from the German perspective. And there's such historical reference to Germans with other people from other countries, other races, especially now. The timing of it's uncanny with everything happening with the Syrian refugees. So I'd love to hear you speak to that. The timing to me is magical, and that's a very important part of the film.
I'll let the Germans speak a little bit to that, but I'll just say that I actually felt a little bit guilty because we were shooting this movie at the time when Germany was leading the world in kindness, and I'm like, they're all dickheads in the script. But I'll let them speak to that about from their perspective.
I mean, for us, I think the problem is not only like a racist problem, is everywhere you go. It doesn't matter if it's in Germany or if it's in France, it can be anywhere. I had the feeling when I read the script and I saw the film that it could be just the fact that he's like an outsider, he's choppy, you know, that could be also enough to be an outsider. It doesn't have to be necessarily his being black. I mean, for us it was interesting because we talked about maybe setting the film in Dresden, and that would have been very interesting because the dynamics in Germany that we have now, the problem with all the hatred that is going on, that is the source is in Dresden right now. So
yeah, it would have been a much different film. Like the undercurrent would have been more on the surface, I think, if it was in Dresden. Yeah. But that's an exception. That's like the Alabama of Germany.
Yeah.
Sorry to anyone from Alabama. Yes.
Hi. I didn't get a chance to see the movie. I was on E-list, but I didn't make it like last 8. So that's my fault. It's all good. But I'm also working on a film that's a father-son relationship. An African kid moves out of Africa and dropped into the South Bronx, and a real traditional father. So my question is, how did you raise financing, and what were the steps that you took to do it, and also to bring your team together?
Well, the first step was I partnered with Adela Romansky here, who's an independent American producer, and we went over to Berlin and met with a few different companies, including Blick, which is these guys. And then they came on board, and almost a very big chunk of our funding came from Germany. So they should probably describe just quickly how that works, because it's totally different than raising the money here in the States.
Yeah, totally different. Hi. The difference is in general that we have in Europe and Germany, we have cultural fundings. So our business works like TV and funding. and there are cultural aspects that you have to fulfill to get money. So what we had was an American director, a script in English and German, which is kind of unusual and super difficult to finance, obviously. So we were happy to find Stephanie, who believed in the project early on, which is also very unusual because she's a broadcaster, and she has to broadcast films for her audience, and they are German. Obviously, and we took it from there, and then we were able to get cultural funding and commercial funding in Germany because we were shooting in Germany, and we were lucky enough through the other producers that we had Beachside on board, which is an American co-production company who put in some money. But the strange thing at the end, it's a super piece of art that combines different cultures and different financial structures, I would say. Which is kind of interesting, but cost a lot of work also.
So we have time for
One more question, right here.
I thought probably my favorite parts of the film were the interactions with him and the tutor.
Mm-hmm.
Their chemistry just seemed really, really fun to watch. And so I was hoping maybe you could either just tell some stories about developing that, or if it was natural, or if you actually hated each other, or whatever it is.
Do you want to talk about what it was like working with Marquise and how it went down?
It's really hard to hate Marquise because it's much, to be honest. Just hang around him, really. He's, as everyone notices, probably a very old soul, and just gonna look into his eyes and just roll with him, really. And Chad kept him concentrated.
Sometimes.
He doesn't not always concentrate, but I don't know. I think he really related to the role, and he said that himself, to the father and son relationship. A bit less to the humping. I gotta say, because he's not here. Yeah, for me it was just very important not to be a smart-ass teacher. So I wanted to be a bit more on even and on his, same eye level. And yeah, I hope that came across.
And I will say that I've never experienced this before, but without actually saying different lines, their scenes were completely different every take. The way that they interacted with each other and played off of each other was constantly changing because he's, going on pure instinct, and she was kind of just being a good scene partner with him and letting him take the lead. And so there was some, a little bit of nerves on the set, being like, is this gonna even cut together? But it was, I've never experienced that, where it wasn't like improvising, but it was kind of just improvising with the meaning of the words and the way that you can dictate them with somebody else. It was pretty cool for me to watch. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to vote. If you love the movie, you have to give it 4 stars, and if you hated the movie, you have to give it 4 stars. So I think how it works.